What is up, fellas? My name is Ripjaw, and today we're going to be looking at what I believe is the most versatile loadout for the assault class in Battlefield 1. Now, there's a big difference between Battlefield 1 and previous Battlefield games, where classes are now actually very distance specific in terms of their weapons. And what I mean by that is that the assault class, for example, only has access to SMGs and shotguns, making their effective range very short compared to the medic class, for example, which makes use of semi-auto rifles, which are better at a medium range. Now, the good thing about this is that each class has their own place on the front lines. I'm not sure I prefer it, because I actually enjoy playing as the old assault class, going in guns blazing, performing Rambo revives, whereas now that's not always possible with how the medic class will almost always lose at very close ranges due to the limited selection of weapons that they have. So, first up, I'm going to be talking about the primary weapon. Now, the weapon I've chosen for this is the Automatico M1918 Trench variant. I'm personally not a huge fan of shotguns because I feel like their range is a bit too limited, especially like using them in a versatile scenario. And the Model 10 range was just nerfed, so that one's pretty much out the window. I found it difficult to choose between the MP18 and the Automatico because the MP18 has slightly longer damage drop-off over distance. So, it's a bit more effective at longer ranges, and the recoil is a bit easier to manage because of the lower rate of fire. But the Automatico absolutely destroys at closer ranges, and if you can get used to the recoil, it's a lot more effective overall. Now, a great thing about the Automatico Trench variant in specific is that it's got amazing hipfire. You basically hardly ever have to aim down sights, even at longer ranges, which saves you from having to aim down sights and possibly being killed in the process. It's also useful because the Automatico's sights aren't great in the first place, due to the massive clip that gets in the way of your view. Like I said, there's lots of recoil, but as long as you fire in short bursts, you can easily manage to take down targets at medium range as well as close range. Overall, this weapon is in my opinion the most versatile assault weapon because it manages to deal decent damage at medium range while still being absolute beast at close range. Next up, we're going to look at sidearms. For a versatile loadout, you'll want a sidearm that not only can get you out of a sticky situation, but can also hold its own in case you run out of ammo in your primary weapon, for example. I experimented quite a bit with different sidearms for this one, and I personally found that revolvers, even though they do a lot of damage, just take way too long to reload. And if you're in an intense close range situation, the low rate of fire can easily let you down if you start panicking and missing a few shots here and there. With this in mind, I chose the MLE 1903 as my sidearm. The reason why I chose this over the M1911, for example, is that even though the MLE does slightly less damage than the M1911, it has a slightly longer damage drop-off over distance, more than double the amount of control when firing, and a slightly higher rate of fire as well. Put all of those stats together and you get a sidearm that's decent for finishing off enemies at close range, engaging targets at a slightly longer range, and serves as an overall good replacement for when you can't use your primary weapon for whatever reason. Now for gadgets. The assault class in Battlefield 1 is now a purely damage dealing class, meaning that its gadgets are all geared towards blowing stuff up. Most of them are designed for taking out vehicles, such as the anti-tank rocket gun, anti-tank grenades, and the anti-tank mine. However, there won't always be other vehicles to destroy at any given time, so in order to be versatile, you want to choose gadgets that can be effective against infantry as well. The first gadget I chose is the anti-tank grenade. This grenade is highly effective against vehicles, but is also great at dealing with a bunch of enemies trapped in a small space. Having this gadget equipped basically means you have 3 grenades in total instead of 1, which can really come in handy when you're in a longer lasting firefight. The second gadget of choice is the anti-tank rocket gun. Again, this is great for damaging vehicles from a safe distance, but there won't always be vehicles around to damage. In this case, you can use it as an engagement tool for longer ranges where your other weapons might not be useful anymore. And if you can get used to the bullet drop, you can even use it for counter-sniping those annoying scouts camping in buildings and picking your teammates off one by one. The choice of which grenade to use is largely situational and depends partly on your playstyle, but I tend to roll with the impact grenade. It detonates almost instantly when it comes in contact with the surface, so enemies don't have time to run away from it. This really comes in handy when you need to finish an enemy off quickly when you don't have line of sight. And you can also use it aggressively as an engagement tool by throwing it at the enemy and then finishing them off with your primary weapon or secondary weapon. I found it also works as a crude spotting tool. Throwing one into a room before I enter it will quickly show a hit marker if there are enemies in there, which can really come in handy if you're trying to flush out a building. All in all, a very versatile grenade to have in your kit. And last but not least, the melee weapon. This is mostly up to personal preference and again depends on your playstyle, but I tend to have a knife equipped, as I already have the ability to do a lot of damage at close range, so I only really need to use it when I need to finish an enemy off once I've already damaged them to begin with. So, I hope this has been useful to you. Give this a loadout a try and let me know in the comments what you think. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and stay tuned for more Battlefield 1 content coming your way.